What's going on, everybody? Happy weekend. We made it through another weekend. It is Friday night, and the best crew on YouTube is here to talk about the New York Giants, the best team of all. No, let's not get carried away. The most interesting team in the offseason, and maybe not even that much, but interesting to us, to say the least. And really quick before we get into it, and of course, I'm always joined by Adriana, Anthony, and the Entertainer. I hope you guys all had a great week. I was looking back at our channel today. I can't believe we've been doing this for 5 months. Like, I feel like we just started this. Wow. And we actually were doing this show during the season last year, which I don't really remember. And I was like, wow, I can't believe we've been doing it this long. But the reason I went back and looked at it is we are almost at 4,100 subscribers. So I wanted just to take a moment to thank all you guys and girls in the chat that have really made this channel grow very quickly. This is a very hard team to watch and root for, and we understand it's been a bad team for many years. This time of year, we're always hopeful, and we hope that the New York Giants, Joe Schoen and company, make the right decisions when it comes to personnel, players, and everything else that they go through this time of year. We feel like Joe Schoen has done a pretty good job so far in free agency. But now the big kahuna is coming up in less than 3 weeks from yesterday. We have the draft. The Giants picked number 3 overall. And, of course, today the New York Giants went to Colorado. And it wasn't just Joe Schoen and a couple other guys. They took like their entire front office to Colorado, including Brian Daboll, who says, I'm not going to watch the pro day. Okay, he was there. And he was watching both Travis Hunter, who was not supposed to participate, but he went out there and he ran routes for Shedeur Sanders. Sanders looked good. Sanders did his thing without question. I think he was very impressive. I think they were impressed. So what I want to start with is this. I've always said, Adriana, that I feel like, obviously, I think the underwear Olympics and pro days, I think they matter without question. But sometimes I feel like there's too much stock put in these controlled environments, no pass rush, no blitzes, no defensive scheme, no coverage. They're just back there practicing, and that's really what it is. How much stock should the Giants take out of what they saw today from Shedeur Sanders?
I think, compared to everything else, the best thing that probably comes out of it is the interviews that they have with the players and the one-on-one conversations that they have. Because like you said, when there's no pass rush and, there's no cornerbacks in the way, like it's easy to have a good day at a pro day, I think, especially if you're not running or doing anything else like that. I think that you can show off, accuracy and ball placement and things like that, with which we got to see with Shedeur, but I don't know how different, or I don't think that's any more valuable than watching his tape or seeing what he did throughout the year. So I would say it's helpful, sure, but I think probably the bigger reason why the coaches and stuff go is to actually see how the players interact. And I've heard Joe Schoen talk about this, is that they also want to see how the players interact with the people around them. The water boy, the girl handing them the ball, how they interact with everyone on a day-to-day basis, like what their personality is like. And then more so of those one-on-one meetings. And I actually saw a quick clip where they showed Joe Schoen talking to Travis Hunter. And I was like, turn the mics on, see what they're saying.
Yeah, without question. Anthony, how much stock do you think they should take out of what they see in a pro day? Whether it's, again, Hunter didn't do a lot, but between Hunter and Sanders, like how much do you think that, does it change their opinion if they have a good pro day? Like if they had a bad pro day, it might change their opinion, but when you go to a pro day, you probably assume they're going to perform well. Do you think it matters that much?
No, I don't think the performance on the field matters all that much because game film doesn't lie. Like that's really where you're going to make your evaluation of a player. I think what's more important, as Adriana said, is the conversations that they have with those players and the way that those players interact with different scouts, different coaches, different teammates. All of that stuff I think is what's really important. I think the top 30 visits are more important though, because that's the opportunity for the Giants to say, hey, look at our facilities. How do you fit in here with this trainer, with this nutritionist? That's really where they get a better evaluation of who each player is as a person. I think what's more important to take away from this pro day at Colorado, more than any on-field drills and any performances from the players, yes, obviously the Giants sent that entire contingent, but the Cleveland Browns sent their owner. And I thought that was pretty interesting. That was my biggest takeaway from the whole thing is that the owner of the Cleveland Browns was in attendance for a pro day. You don't see owners at pro days very often, very few and far between do you see a moment like that. So that was really what I found super interesting. I know we've talked a lot about it. We think Abdul Carter is probably going number 2 to the Browns, but Cleveland having their owner there at the Cleveland Pro Day tells me that they could be leaning towards either Shedeur, since they still don't really have a quarterback. I know they said we believe in Kenny Pickett. Yeah, right. Who believes in Kenny Pickett? I don't believe in Kenny Pickett. There's no way you guys believe in Kenny Pickett. So maybe they're going Shedeur at 2. Maybe they're going Travis. I don't know. But I definitely think my biggest takeaway from Colorado's Pro Day was that Cleveland Browns had their owner there.
Chris, how much stock do you think they take out of the pro day when they go down there to watch those guys play?
Not very much. I mean, the interviews, as was said, I think that's obviously a part of it. But they got to interview these guys at the combine as well. They've already had a lot of hands-on with these guys, I guess a little bit. But it's the underwear Olympics, as we always say. I don't think you're going to take too much out of it. Shedeur looked like I thought he would. His mechanics always look top-notch to me. For a guy coming out of college, he's got some of the best mechanics I've ever seen. In terms of his footwork, I think it's beautiful. Every time I watch the guy play, I think he displayed the good enough arm strength. But again, it's in a controlled environment. I think we could all agree that Shedeur has enough arm strength when he could step into a throw. I think where the question marks come from his arm strength when you talk to the skeptics are his off-platform throws. When he's under pressure, can he put enough zip on the ball? And you're not going to get that from a pro day. So, like Anthony said, a lot of it's on the tape. By the way, love your shirt, Anthony. I want to get that 19-0 denied. I saw people bringing that up in the chat.
Appreciate it.
But glad to be here. And yeah, again, I don't take too much out of it. It's fun. It's part of the draft process. Maybe it'll shift some mocks. But if the Giants wanted Shedeur Sanders before they went, they still want him. If they didn't want Shedeur Sanders before they went, they're still not going to want him. I don't think today changes any of that.
Yeah. Do you think that they went there? They're drafting one of these two guys. This
100%. I 100%. I won't say 100%. If Abdul Carter doesn't go in the top 2, he's certainly a possibility. But I'm strongly leaning that one of these two guys will be a Giant. And you know what? I'm going to go back to what I've said all along. I still think it's going to be Shedeur Sanders.
Still think it's. What if Cleveland takes Shedeur?
Well, then of course he won't be. But
again.
But then it would probably be Hunter. But I would probably be rooting for Carter in that, but it would probably be Hunter. But if Sanders is there, I think he'll be the pick.
Yeah. Anthony, you think he's going to be there? Or you think so? We talked about the Cowboys getting Joe Milton, correct? That was something we talked about last time.
We mentioned it.
Okay. And that it was because I mentioned that rumor that there was the trade Dak Prescott to Cleveland, and I did the whole thing of the whole conspiracy theory about Shedeur going to Dallas with that pick and blah, blah, blah. Anthony, you just said it. You can't, I mean, listen, I know Cleveland is as crappy as we are, and I get that. And I don't think their fan base, and I don't think I know one Cleveland Browns fan. I don't know that I've ever met a Cleveland Browns fan. I live in New York, so it's not like they're roaming around here. But I can't imagine their fan base is really any higher on the hog than we are about our team. However, at least we have addressed our quarterback situation. At least we know we have a guy. Yeah, he might be a little bit past his prime. He's going to Canton. We have another guy in a backup that has a great contract that we know can definitely play at the NFL level. Cleveland, how the hell can you sell your fan base on Kenny Pickett and the owner, who you said went to pro day, saying Deshaun Watson's contract is horrible? Do you think that Shedeur Sanders is going to get by Cleveland? Because it just seems to me Cleveland has to take a quarterback in this situation.
Yeah, that's what I feel like too. I'm like, how you can't, there's no way you're going into the season with Kenny Pickett and like Jalen Milroe. Like,
I'm of the belief, and we'll find out as the draft gets closer. I don't think Cleveland's done in terms of acquiring a quarterback. I think you've heard rumors about them potentially being interested in Kirk Cousins. I'm of the belief they're going to get another quarterback before the draft starts. That's my belief. But I agree, if it's just Kenny Pickett going into the draft, it's going to be I think it's going to be a very hard sell regardless if you get Kirk Cousins. But at least at that point, you could say, well, go get the best player. That's my belief. I think they're still going to add another quarterback to this roster before the draft or potentially after. But Cousins is the guy that it seems to be the most likely candidate that you've heard in terms of a potential trade candidate.
Yeah, and when we talked about the Giants signing Russell Wilson, though, we did mention that that could be protection just in case the Browns do go with Shedeur
Yeah.
Sanders, and maybe the Giants heard something. There was some rumor in the wind that, hey, the Browns are leaning towards taking Shedeur, and maybe you could look at today's events with the owner being there as confirmation of such a rumor or speculation. So I don't know. I do agree with you. I think Kirk Cousins does seem to be the guy that they're interested in. He absolutely could land there between now and the draft, but if he doesn't, I agree with Bad Dog. I don't know how you walk out of the first round without a quarterback if Kenny Pickett's the only guy really on your roster. So you kind of throw all of these different rumors and speculative points into an equation here. The Browns sending their owner to the pro day, or the owner, I guess, sending himself. I don't know. Nobody sends the owner,
Right,
right? But
right.
yeah, but and then on top of that, the owner saying like literally a week ago or 2 weeks ago that contract was a mistake and they took a swing and a miss. Like this sounds like an owner and looks like an owner who might force the quarterback upon the front office is kind of how I'm reading the tea leaves here. Maybe Kevin Stefanski doesn't want to draft the quarterback. Maybe Andrew Berry, the GM, doesn't want to draft the quarterback. Maybe the owner wants to draft the quarterback, and that's why he's going to Colorado to meet Shedeur Sanders. Maybe he's going to tell the front office, you're taking a quarterback in the first round. That quarterback, Shedeur Sanders. Could happen.
Yeah,
Good.
we know all about our owner having an influence. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I was just saying it could. It could 100%
Oh,
could. Yeah, I agree that that's certainly a possibility. I'm not ruling that out.
it's
And then we
it's
probably get
crazy.
Hunter, like I said.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, you never you this is why this is fun. We can sit here and speculate. We will for the next 3 weeks, and we'll go over all the rumors and everything else. But you never know. There's always some major surprise that goes on during the draft. Now, I have also seen these. Again, I texted this in the group text today, and Chris will start with you because I know we talked about this on Wednesday, and I said these guys watch our show, so thank you for watching. We know you do. When I said, is it possible that if Shedeur Sanders gets past New Orleans, the Giants can end up with both Hunter and Sanders? And now, again, they're just rumors, but I see mock drafts that have that. And they talk about the Giants having to give up like 34, 65, and whatever else we talked about. It might have been the 5th round pick to move up to 20 or whatever it was. And obviously, if they only had to move up to 29, it wouldn't cost as much. Could that actually happen?
Anything could happen. Quarterbacks are unpredictable where they could fall in the draft. I think Anthony leans more towards that's a possibility from the things he's said in weeks past with Shedeur Sanders and how teams view him. I don't see it. I don't think Shedeur Sanders falls out of the top 5 picks. I think Shedeur Sanders does not fall that far, but nothing would shock me, especially at the quarterback position, because all it takes is 1 or 2 teams to pass, and then you have a bunch of teams that already have quarterbacks or a future potential quarterback on their roster, and they want to build out throughout the rest of the roster. So I don't think I would ever see Shedeur getting past, say, Pittsburgh, and the Giants would probably have to jump them if they wanted to.
That's where I was figuring they'd have to jump.
To make that a possibility. But at that point, you're talking about the possibility of him, and I understand the Geno extension lends itself more towards they may not take him if he gets to that point. Certainly evidence towards that, but he would have to get past the Raiders. He would have to get past the Jets. He would have to get past the Saints. I don't see that happening. I don't think he'll fall that far. Right. So I think if the Giants won, they got to take him at 3.
I've been saying the whole time, I think he's going to have a Raider. I just have a feeling he's going to have a Raider.
I saw a mock draft that had the Browns trading. I think they have pick like 28 or something in that range. Or maybe they have early 30s too, but I saw them trading back into the first and at pick like 27, them getting Shedeur. And I was like, I don't think he's going to fall that far, but
I don't think he'd fall that far either. But if he did, I'm sure the Giants would try to get up and get him at that point. Anthony, is that oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was just saying, like, if he makes it that far into the first round, then I agree. I could see the Giants at least attempting to swing to get back in there. But the thing is, it could just be a repeat of last year where or whatever they probably tried with the Titans too. They can offer whatever. And, if the team really wants him, they don't care.
Yeah. Anthony, any way that a pipe dream could that actually happen?
I mean, Honestly, I think it's a possibility, but it's so random. I can't tell what Shedeur Sanders' draft stock is within the NFL right now because on one hand, I just made this whole argument that the Browns might be taking him at number 2 overall because the owner seems like that's what he wants. But on the other hand, this could be a Will Levis situation, right? Where everybody thought he was going top 5. All of the media outlets were saying he's a top 5 pick, but the NFL just didn't view him that way, and he ended up going way later. And if you think back on the Will Levis situation, a lot of those analysts that were mocking him in the top 5 were doing that based on needs and projections, but still had him ranked in like the 20 to 30 range. And ultimately, he ended up going around 35, I think it was. So if that's a repeat here with Sanders, I guess it's possible where he does fall. But then I think the big question the Giants fans will have is how much does it cost to trade up into the middle of the first round? And I actually do have a theory on this and an idea that I want to pitch to you all. Last year, the Minnesota Vikings did exactly this. They had the 10th overall pick, but they traded up to get the 23rd overall pick from the Houston Texans. And they did that like 2 or 3 weeks in advance of the NFL draft. My thing is, if this is a possibility that the Giants are going through, could we land a Travis Hunter at 3 and a quarterback later in the draft? Why not make the trade now to open yourself up to those possibilities? Because at the worst case, that second first round pick, you could trade down on draft night, get more extra draft capital in the middle rounds, basically recuperate what you lost by trading up in the first place. Or if you need to trade up to the first overall pick, right? Because there was a report today that the Giants are still calling the Titans about it. Now you got 2 first round picks in this year's draft class to get it done. So essentially, what the Vikings gave up last year was a second round pick in the upcoming year. So 2025 is what they gave up. Their second round pick, obviously, to move up into the first, and I think a 6th round pick as well. So a 6th and a future second is what they used to move up about 20 spots. If it's a 6th and let's just call it a 5th for the Giants to move up, or I'm sorry, a future second and a 5th in this year's draft to move up, I would absolutely do that. And I think that's something that the Giants should get done prior to the NFL draft. That way, they have all these options available to them and they're not forced to pay a premium price on draft night to potentially get that future first round pick or that additional first round pick. So I'm curious what you guys think. Should the Giants take a page out of the Vikings playbook, try and get an extra first round pick sooner rather than later?
I get the theory you have there, Anthony, and you made a lot of sense with what you said. I'm not in love with that idea for the same reason I wasn't in love with the idea. And I remember I mentioned it on Twitter when the Vikings did it last year prior to the draft, because I would want to know what was available to me with that pick before I made a trade. Because if I, say I value a player at 21, 22, and I project he's going to be there before the draft and he ends up going 10, that I would rather see what's there before making a trade like that before the draft starts. That's just my opinion on the matter. But I understand where you're coming from. Try to get another pick so it gives you more potential ammunition to jump up a little bit further. If a guy like Shedeur Sanders trickles down out of the top 10, 12, 15, it gives you a better opportunity to trade up. So it's a good point you made, but I'm of the belief that if I'm going to jump back up into the first, I would want to know who the guy I was trading up for was going to be before making a trade pre-draft like that.
Go ahead, Audra.
I like the idea of it, and I think that if that's their goal to get back in the first round, then I agree that doing it now is better than on draft night. And the way I see it is this team has a good amount of holes. So let's say the quarterback is not there or whoever they were hoping to get is there. You're still going to have a first round caliber starter, day one, good player that's going to upgrade this roster. Maybe it's an offensive lineman. Maybe it's a defensive lineman. Could be a wide receiver. Like it could be anyone at that point. So if that's their goal, I like the idea of doing it sooner rather than later, because I think either way, you're walking out of it with a very good football player.
Yeah, you also would get a 5th-year option on that player if you chose to. So again, it does make sense. It makes sense. I understand where Chris is coming from because, yeah, if you really covet a player and you think he's going to be there at whatever, 27, and he doesn't make it there, then you kind of go to plan B. But to Anthony's point, you could also trade back. You could also field calls and kind of go back to where you were. Obviously, you wouldn't go exactly back to where you were, but you could recoup some of your picks. So, again, the Giants have a lot of options, and I really believe Joe Schoen getting 2 legitimate quarterbacks, not just one here, not just going in with Jameis Winston and Tommy DeVito, but having 2 guys that can play at this level really did free them up from absolutely having to force it if they don't love him. Okay, so I just saw, where did I just see this in the chat? And I want to bring it up because this is a good point. Where is this? Now, granted, I will say this. Obviously, this year is different. There's no question about it. Last year is a different story. Every year is different. JC put this in here, and I just want to get to this. The Giants, we talked about this, ad nauseum. They loved McCarthy. McCarthy. They didn't take McCarthy. They didn't take Bo Nix. They didn't take Michael Penix. Is Shedeur Sanders better than those three guys?
Not
You want
so.
me to start? Yeah,
Anybody can jump in there.
From what,
go ahead. Go. You start.
from what I understand, he is ranked as being like JJ McCarthy's level in last year's draft or a step behind. From what I have seen, Cam Ward is the clear number one in this draft, and he would be more on par with like a Drake May, JJ McCarthy, Michael Penix type.
Mm-hmm.
I get that sentiment. That's been my theory for the last month or so, that this Giant Shedeur obsession is JJ McCarthy 2.0, and that they're not actually going to pick Shedeur because they don't have him valued as high. Like last year, they had Neighbors valued higher. I think this year they have Hunter valued higher. I have nothing to prove that. It's just my theory.
This is speculation.
That's all we do here right now.
We're just fans with opinions like everybody else. We don't play.
Right.
We don't claim to be some experts, but my if you're asking me how would I value him in comparison to those quarterbacks, I like JJ, as did Anthony. He frequently says that as well. I think they're comparable as prospects. I think they have similar ceilings. I think both of them have really strong mechanics. I was a big fan of JJ, and I'm a pretty big fan of Shedeur. I think they're comparable as prospects. And then, to be fair to your point, Bad Dog, you're going to say, like you kind of let out with the question, well, if you didn't want JJ last year, Chris, why would you want Shedeur this year? And that's a fair point, but I'm going to explain why it's different this year than last year. If it was JJ this year, I would want the New York Giants to draft him. Last year, you still had Daniel Jones under contract. Granted, we all knew on this panel more than likely that contract was going to be a failure after we saw 5 games the year before and he got hurt. But it was only 5 games, and you still had another year with him. But that's not the biggest reason. The next spot, your number one wide receiver on the roster was Darius Slayton, and you had an opportunity to take Malik Neighbors. Now Neighbors is already on this roster. And thinking about it from the perspective of Joe Shane, it was year 3. He was almost guaranteed to come back the following year. As we saw, things went as bad as they possibly could, and he's back. He was almost guaranteed to come back, so he didn't feel the pressure of having to draft a quarterback. I think if J.J. McCarthy was in this draft and he was available at 3, given everything that happened last year and Neighbors already being on the roster, J.J. McCarthy would be a New York Giant. And I believe Shedeur Sanders, if he's there, will be a New York Giant.
Anthony, what do you think?
I think J.J. McCarthy personally is a better prospect than Shedeur Sanders. I like him ahead of Shedeur, but I think that it's pretty even between Shedeur, Penix, and Bo Nix. I had Penix and Bo Nix. I thought they were kind of like in the same cluster. They had similar pros and cons, like different strengths and weaknesses, but the same level of pros and cons to each of them. So I thought they were about the same value of a prospect, and I think Shedeur is kind of in that range. I think J.J. McCarthy was better, and if the Giants passed on J.J. McCarthy last year, then the logic would probably be that they pass on Shedeur Sanders. But there is also the report, I think it was Mike Garafolo said recently, they passed on J.J. McCarthy not because of his ability as a football player, but because they thought he couldn't handle the New York media market. That was the report that I read from Mike Garafolo. So if that's the case, that might be, it might not be an applicable logic based on where you rank the prospects, because they might care more about the person and how they fit. And if you're asking me personally, Shedeur Sanders absolutely fits the Big Apple. I mean, he is prime time. Like, he loves the spotlight and he handles the spotlight better than most prospects have. He's grown up in the spotlight. He was on reality TV growing up with Meeting the Sanders or whatever they called that show. So if that's what it comes down to, if they just felt like it wasn't a person fit with McCarthy, but they feel like they are similar prospects, and maybe they don't have that concern with Shedeur Sanders, then maybe they will take him, even though, obviously he's comparable prospects to McCarthy they pass on, but it might just come down to personality fit.
Yeah. So again, I mean, we mentioned before how you might want to punt the quarterback again and continue to build the roster and then insert the quarterback. And obviously last year, again, on paper, this roster looks a lot better because, to Chris's point, there's a playmaker wide receiver. We haven't had a guy like Malik Neighbors since Odell Beckham. And so it would be tough to bring in a rookie to throw to Darius Slayton as his number one receiver. Definitely better weapons there now if they do take Shedeur Sanders. But Shedeur Sanders also said today, he said, I don't really care where I play. The lights and the eyes are going to be on me anyway, wherever I go. So he definitely doesn't lack for confidence, which is something our quarterback for the last 6 years had none of at all. He had no confidence. Sure, at least exudes confidence. I get on board with a guy that's confident. You know, it might not always translate on the field, but I like a guy that's confident in himself because I say this all the time, and this is just life. It ain't even football. If you have confidence in what you're doing, you're going to do it better than if you're doubting yourself. And I feel like every time Daniel Jones dropped back to pass, he doubted that he was going to do anything, and it showed every time. And it was crazy, and we don't worry about that anymore. So that's good. And while we're at it, I'm going to bring this up now because big shout out to BetUS TV who power our stream. They have a great channel on YouTube. You can go over there. You can check out all the odds. And they have all the betting odds as far as like the draft goes. I'm sure they have who's going to go first, who's first player is going to be a quarterback, going to be a lineman, is going to be this, going to be that. But you can go over there. They have all your props, all your odds, all the stuff. And we love this. This made the panel snicker when I brought this up last time because as you can see,
oh my God,
the betting odds, yes, the betting odds, because it was so funny the first time I brought it up. The betting odds of the Giants are long, to say the least, and we are actually more than four times less likely to win the division of the Cowboys. That is absolutely insanity that the New York Giants in 2025, 2026 look like that. And that is after they got Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. Now, these can fluctuate, obviously, as we get into the draft. That is funny, though. I can't. That's why I brought it up again, Chris, because I still got a kick out of plus 3,000. So if you have $100 to burn and you don't just feel like taking a match to it and watching it ignite in 5 seconds, you can put that $100 on the New York Giants and wait 4 months to see it go up in flames. Or maybe, just maybe, they pull up one of the biggest miracles in the history of sports and win this division over the Philadelphia Eagles. But I don't think that's
what were the odds? Because I know you always tell me that you bet the Giants money line during the 2008 Super Bowl against the Patriots. What were the odds on that?
They were 14-point dog. What the hell was the money line?
You bet a money line, though, right? You didn't bet.
Yeah, the money line was, what was it? 18.
Also, in case anyone's wondering what the over/under wins is, it's anywhere between, from what I have seen, 4.5 and 5.5.
I saw it went up to 5.5. Actually, yeah, Ronan posted that today, I think, and it's actually the more money's on the over than the under, which surprised me. I think it's like minus, at least the one that he showed. I think it was like minus 140 for 5.5. So the Giants are actually trending up. Yeah,
the one I saw was plus 100 for 5.5 for the over.
Oh, okay.
You said more money is on the over?
More money's on the over than the under on 5.5. Yeah.
Oh, well,
at least the one that run on.
We're cooked, man. Vegas always wins. We're cooked.
I don't think Vegas won last year. I'm sure Vegas lost. The Giants winning 3 games. Well, hopefully, we lose all the damn time. I don't care what the hell Vegas does. I want to win some damn football games. I'm sick and tired of freaking losing. But that stat is hilarious. And hopefully they can prove some of the doubters wrong. And, I don't know. It's just not good. Well, I don't know why that's going. Oh, that's because I got to take care of this. This is my fault. User error. Let's get to some of these comments. Appreciate you all supporting the channel. I really appreciate that. If you haven't done so, by the way, do us a favor, hit the subscribe button because that helps out. Hit the thumbs up. They're free. They're easy to do. We got to be closing on 4,100 subscribers, which is amazing. We really appreciate all the support. This channel is growing very fast, and we really appreciate it. Adam says, is there any chance Bobby Skinner will come on? Well, we don't really run this channel. We'd have a show on here, but I'm sure in the future we would love to have guests. I think that would be awesome. I'll
text him after the show. We'll get him on. He'll definitely we can get him on. We get him on.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I would love to have some people have their insight, especially a guy like Bobby who knows his shit. I would love to have some guests on to see what the hell they think about the offseason goings on and whatever. I'd love to have some players on here sometime. No, just kidding.
By the way,
maybe someday we'll have a player on here. Who knows?
By the way, Adam, love profile picture. I'm a big Muppet guy, so love the profile picture. But thanks for being a great subscriber. And yeah, I'd love to have Bobby on. Obviously, Bobby started his new channel. That's exciting. And he we all know he brings a lot of knowledge. He's probably the best guy in terms of breaking down film in the Giants community. So yeah, we definitely try to get him on one of these shows, hopefully.
Always the stuff. Larry, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. The NFL Players Agreement has the Giants, or the NFLPA has the Giants ranked 20th overall. I was surprised to hear head coach and ownership ranking the same at 21st of all 32 teams. Thoughts on this? Is this just player blues from the season, or are they down on Daboll? Well, I mean, I think anytime you win 9 games over the course of 2 years and you're, what does that equate to, 9-25? That's what got Shermer thrown out of here. So, I mean,
I thought it would be, to be honest.
What's that?
20th out of 32 doesn't seem that bad.
No, I was going to say, comparative to what our record is, I think that shows people are actually higher on Daboll.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he got a B+ grade, so like that's not too bad. That's if it was a C grade, I'd say okay, the players don't like him, but a B+ indicated that he did a fine job holding that locker room together. And since Chris shouted out the last profile photo, I'll shout out this one. This is cool, Brad Pitt.
One of the greatest movies of all time.
Great film.
We were talking movies on Twitter, Anthony. I didn't realize you were such a big movie guy.
Huge, massive.
Glorious Bastards, one of my favorite movies of all time. Great character, Brad Pitt. Love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, I think that Daboll. Look at what he had to work with. Who could Vince Lombardi? How many wins could Vince Lombardi have got out of Drew Lock throwing the football and not having Dexter Lawrence and Andrew Thomas for half the year and starting the year with Daniel Jones and him going down? With Vince Lombardi going to win 6 games of that roster? It's a bad roster. We're gonna have a much different outlook on Brian Daboll this year because there's a guy back there that can play quarterback.
Well, we were talking about this briefly before the show, and to me, it says a lot that someone like Gronk is every time there's rumors about him coming out of retirement, Daboll is the first person he talks about, and he would want to play where Daboll's coaching. He would go to the Giants because of Daboll, all of these things. So to me, that says a lot that when you have had Bill Belichick as your coach and won 1 million Super Bowls, you're willing to go to a team that Brian Daboll was just, I don't even know, an assistant coach back then. So to me, I do think that the players are mostly in on Daboll, probably with the exception of Hyatt. And I will not be surprised if there's a Hyatt trade this spring or summer. But I do think that most of the players seem like they're in it. And like Anthony said, he got a better grade than some of the other grades throughout the report card. So to me, it says like, I think the fans are more out on Daboll than the players are, which I would love to be fly on the wall because the stupid shit that Daboll says in his post games. I'm like, what on earth happens during the week that you all think Sunday is going to be a great day? That's what I want to know.
Yeah. He's got a ham. What happened to Andrew Thomas? Yeah, he's got a hammy. He's got a hammy.
Chasing down a blocked kick. Oh my god!
Yeah, just like that. Everything is it's just a body part. He doesn't say what's wrong with it. What happened to Tommy? Yeah, he's got a peck. He doesn't say like he's hurt himself or he's got a neck. He's got a little bit of a neck right now.
Daboll's got to put a pack on a few pounds, I think, because the Ozempic Daboll wasn't working for me last year.
Daboll is looking very svelte.
He's got to gain a little weight, though, bad dog. He's got to gain a little weight. He was better when he was a little.
He was better when he was heavier, so maybe Daboll needs to be heavier. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe he just needs better quarterback play.
That's probably more of the reason.
I can tell you, he just shed a big contract at about 230 pounds of Daniel Jones. So he got rid of that weight. That dead weight's been holding him down for sure. Sean, thank you. He says Dion is going to rig the draft so the Giants draft Hunter at 3 and trade up for his son. I hope you're right. That would make my year if they ended up with both of those players.
That would be something that would get me really excited about this year. I would forget about the bad schedule, forget about everything else, and I would be like, let's go. We're going to win.
But I got a question about that. I got a question about this theory by Sean Sullivan. If Dion was going to rig the draft in favor of his son, wouldn't he want his son to go 3 so he could get a lot more money than him go like 15 for a trade up scenario?
Money?
Well, Dion has said he wants the right fit. He said that many times. The fit is everything for him. And I think Dion's got the money, so maybe not. Maybe he would just want the right fit.
Did you guys see, wait, speaking of Dion's money, did you guys see the interview after Shedeur threw and his other son Shiloh came over to Dion while he had the headset on? And I guess they had a bet that if he ran a 4.4, Dion was going to give him a car. And he was like, sorry, I disappointed you because he ran a 4.5 too.
I did not see that.
I didn't see that. It's crazy.
It's like, what?
Yeah. I don't think
You
they're hurt.
not me. I'll train for months to run a 4.4. If I
probably wouldn't be able to run a 5.4 if I trained all year, but I would try my hardest. I would try my hardest.
Yeah. Well, it depends on how far I got to run. I could run a 4.4 if I only have to go 20 yards, maybe.
Yeah.
It also depends on who's chasing me. You'd be amazed what adrenaline will do. I can tell you that much right now. R0B, thank you so much. The Giants didn't take JJ because they liked Penix better. And they felt they can get him later on in the second round. And they were wrong, which was reported. That's funny. I never saw that report, honestly. But I don't know what the hell the Giants were thinking because, listen, I am not a scout. I am not an analyst. I don't break down film. I'm a fan. I've always been a fan. I'll always be a fan. And that's what I do. My eyes tell me one thing. I am not an expert on mechanics, arm release, none of this stuff. I just look and say, oh, that guy's good, that guy's not good. I knew damn well Michael Penix was way too good to fall into the second round. I knew that. And I would have been fine.
You were a Penix guy.
I'm a Penix guy, and I was a Penix guy since he was at Indiana. So I knew he wasn't going to go to the second round. I can't imagine the Giants would have said, yeah, we're going to – especially when all the talk about McCarthy. That was
and there was also evidence that they tried trading up for a quarterback.
Right.
Like they tried moving up to 2 and 3 as we saw in Hard Knocks. So I don't know who said that, Rob. I don't think that's true. If they really like JJ McCarthy, they showed a willingness in last year's draft to try to move up and get a quarterback. They could have taken him at 6. They didn't do it. So I don't think they love JJ McCarthy. Obviously, they didn't take him. They took Neighbors.
Yeah, actually, Connor Rogers of NBC Sports revealed recently on the NFL Stock Exchange podcast that he heard in Indianapolis last year that the Giants' plan was to move up back into the back end of the first round for a quarterback. And that's why he's been saying on that podcast, he speculates they're going to do that for Jackson Dart this year because what they wanted to do last year was take Neighbors at 6 and trade into the first round for Penix is what he was saying. So that's totally possible. And again, could apply to this year as well. But I don't think Penix was ever making it out of the first round. And I think the Giants wanted to draft him at the back end of the first round, probably for, as we've all mentioned, that 5th-year option on the contract.
Yeah. So that's crazy. But yeah, I think the guy that I didn't see him going to Atlanta. That's for damn sure.
Yeah.
No.
I didn't have him going there. I thought the Raiders. I thought he was going to Vegas. That's really where I had him. So I did not expect the Raiders to do that. And I did not expect Bo Nix to go 12th. I didn't think 6 quarterbacks were going in the top 12.
I thought Nix was going to Denver. I did.
First 3 immediately. But
just because he was such a good fit for Sean Payton. Not because I thought he proved me wrong. I didn't love Bo Nix, but I thought he was such a good fit for that Payton offense. So that made sense to me. But like you, I didn't think Penix was going to Atlanta. No way did I think.
Not Atlanta. Like I said, I thought Vegas because they still need a quarterback. And my brother-in-law is a Raiders fan, and I kept telling him the Giants are going to get Penix. We're going to get Penix. You're not getting Penix. We're going to get Michael Penix. The only thing worried about him was 2 things. I mean, he dealt with a couple of injuries, tore his ACL twice. That scared me, obviously, and he's a lefty. So his blindside protector was Evan Neal, and I didn't like that at all. So I didn't like. So the reason I didn't want either one of those guys at 6, there was different questions for me. Penix, the injury thing, and being Evan Neal protecting his blind side, I was scared about that. And McCarthy, I was just like, I don't think he had to do much in Michigan. Really, he never had to do much. He didn't really call the blocking schemes that was done by the line of scrimmage, and they were on every team, and they were just super. Michigan was an amazing team. So I was just concerned about he's going from like the best team in college to one of the worst situations in the pros. Can he do it? So that was my concern there. It didn't matter. We took Malik Neighbors, so it didn't matter. This year, though, the Giants are walking out of this draft with a quarterback. I think we can all agree on that. At some point, they're going to draft a quarterback.
They have to. Yeah.
At some point. Could be 3, could be day 3, but they're going to get somebody. R0B, thank you again. He says, you take the quarterback because the goal is not to pick 3 again. So you swing when you can. You swing at the quarterback. Taking Travis or Carter is the wrong move.
Here's my question about that, because obviously this is all hypothetical. if last year the Giants take JJ McCarthy at 6 and the same thing happens and he gets injured again, right? Let's just argument's sake, and we don't have Malik Neighbors. Maybe we picked up another wide receiver. Is anyone going into this season with this schedule, a quarterback coming off an injury and no Malik Neighbors? Is anyone going into this season optimistic just because we have JJ McCarthy? You could make the argument that maybe you feel a little bit better because you've got a rookie young quarterback. He's got potential, whatever, but there's no proven history. It's not, we didn't get Jaden Daniels. So there's no proven theory to say, well, if we had JJ McCarthy this year, we're looking at 10 wins. I don't think that that's a fair assumption to make.
Yeah, I mean, again, it depends. I think that if they didn't sign the quarterbacks they signed, yes. But again, I mentioned this Wednesday. It's not the Russell Wilson signing. It's not the Jameis Winston signing. Those are what they are. It is the fact that they tried to bring Matthew Stafford in here, trade away players or picks for him, offer him $100 million guaranteed, a massive contract. He's not going to be a bridge quarterback when you're giving him that kind of money and you're giving up assets to acquire Matt Stafford. That tells me they're not in love with Shedeur Sanders. They may still draft him, but it tells me if they're looking to make a move like that, they're not going to draft Shedeur Sanders and have him sit behind Matt Stafford for 4 years. It wouldn't make any sense.
I also think it proves that they're trying to win now. So my theory is that if they don't get Shedeur at 3, what is the point of taking a Jalen Milroe in round 3? How are you selling the fan base? Like, if the point is, well, they have to get a quarterback because John Mara demanded one this offseason and, he's going to excite the fan base. Jalen Milroe or a 3rd, 4th, 5th round quarterback is a project. If Russ Wilson goes down, we're not seeing Jalen Milroe week 7. We're seeing Jameis Winston. So you're talking about Jalen Milroe and Tommy DeVito battling it out, for the 3rd string? And ideally, you don't want to see the 3rd string. So I'm just like, I do think they're going to get a quarterback, but there's a part of me that is like, I almost wouldn't be surprised if they don't get one. If the whole thing is like, well, you have to draft a quarterback. If it's not Shedeur at 3, you have to get a quarterback and you have to excite the fan base. If 10, I'm going to be like, great, we're toast for the rest of the year. We already have a hard schedule, and you think Jalen Milroe, a project quarterback, is going to help us win games in year 1? Hell no.
I'm picking up what you're saying, and I'm completely fine. If you're not going to take a quarterback at 3, I do think they will take one at some point in the draft, but I'm not going to be upset if they don't at that point. Because like you said, a 3rd, 4th round quarterback is not going to excite me. It's not going to excite the fan base. And I hope to be proven wrong. I really do, guys, because I think most fans agree with you guys, because I think you 3 guys seem to be thinking they're going to take Travis Hunter. And if Sanders isn't there, I'm with you guys. I think they will take Travis Hunter. And I hope I'm wrong. As I said last week, if the Giants go that route, I think we have a new GM and I think we have a new head coach in 2026. That's my honest to God belief. I think the only logical way that he could save his job outside of Russell Wilson getting this team to playoff contention, if they don't draft a rookie quarterback, is if they make the playoffs or they come damn near close to making the playoffs. That's how I feel in the matter. 6 wins to me, I don't think moves the needle, and I think they're out of a job at the end of the year if they don't draft a rookie quarterback with that 3rd overall pick. That's how I feel, and I hope they prove me wrong. I'm rooting for them to grow and be able to continue to build a team, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah,
but I'm not. I agree with you. I would completely punt. I'm fine with punting the quarterback if you're not taking 1 at 3.
Right. So you think it has to be Shedeur or bust for the quarterback for them?
Yeah, I really do. I think if they're going to keep their job, I think there's a much higher probability Shane and Daboll keep their job if they take Shedeur at 3 than if they pass on the quarterback.
I totally agree with you. Yeah.
I think they should take a quarterback no matter what. Even if they don't take one at 3, they should take one at some point in this draft class, just because of the history of teams that have taken quarterbacks late that they expected to be long-term developmental projects. Joe Milton being the perfect example, and they just shifted him. They took him in the 6th. They traded him for a 5th. They gained positive value on that, and they reportedly had a better offer on the table, but didn't want to send him to a team he didn't want to go to, so they sent him to Dallas for a 5th. But quarterbacks are like the only position in the sport that appreciate or hold their value. Like, even when Josh Rosen was drafted in the top 10 and he had a historically bad rookie season, still went for a 2nd round pick the next year and then flamed out of the league. But still, he held his value for the most part. Quarterbacks increase their value, appreciate in value, or maintain it. And you never know when you're going to land the Brock Purdy in the 7th. It's rare for sure, but also there's plenty of instances where quarterback gets drafted in the middle rounds and becomes a long-term backup for you. And that is very valuable to have a backup quarterback that you've been developing for several seasons on a rookie contract. Now you're no longer paying a premium for a backup quarterback because backup quarterbacks are getting more and more expensive by each year. So I'm a huge proponent. You got to draft a quarterback at some point in this draft, in my opinion. I do get the other perspective on it because you're not viewing it as a potential long-term starter. That's fine. But I think there's a lot of value in a backup quarterback and just taking a chance, and maybe you get something way greater than what you expect.
Yeah, I'm not against it either. I'm just of the mindset that I'm not going to care if they whether they take a quarterback or not in round 4 or 5 or 6. Like I won't be upset. I won't be excited.
Yeah,
I'll applaud them if they do. Like I'll be really happy if they do it because I think it's the right strategy. Like I think you have to throw darts at the board. The Giants haven't drafted a single quarterback in 6 years. I don't think there's another team in the NFL that's waited that long to even throw a 7th round pick at the position. I think it's crazy that they've gone this long. They've given none of their quarterbacks competition over the last 6 years. Daniel Jones should have had competition at some point. It's ridiculous.
I agree, which is why I think they need to take one at 3.
Fair enough. But if they don't take one at 3, still bring in some extra competition because realistically, Tommy DeVito is going to be a practice squad guy, in my opinion. So
I get what you're throwing.
Look at our starter now. He's a 3rd round pick. Won a Super Bowl.
Good point. Great point.
Dak Prescott's a 4th round pick. Kirk Cousins is a 4th round pick. And Kirk
Jalen
Cousins
Hurts just won a Super Bowl. He's a 2nd.
And Kirk Cousins got drafted the same year RG3 did.
Yep.
By the same team. So again, I don't think it hurts. I don't think it hurts to take a gamble on a Joe Milton or a Kyle McCord or whoever you want to take. Because again, if they suck, who cares? You lost a 4th round pick. But I guess that is such a low.
And even if they're a long-term backup, like Anthony said, with what backups get paid today, look, backups get paid $10 million a year, a good one. If a 4th round quarterback turns out to be a good backup for you, it's worth the pick. So I get the logic there. I just wouldn't be excited about it. I'd be happy with the pick.
That's how I feel. Like it won't surprise me if they do it, but I think if their point is like, well, we're going to sell the fan base on this 4th round quarterback that he's going to battle it out with Jameis Winston for the backup, I'm going to be like, what the fuck are you guys doing? I'm not going to be like, this was a great idea. You know, like it's one thing. And then part of me is also going to be like what Chris said, like if they don't win whatever the mandate is this year or whatever the season looks like, if they don't win that many games, then they're getting fired and we're getting a whole new front office who's going to be like, what are we doing with Will Howard and Tommy DeVito and Jameis Winston?
You drafted another quarterback, like Anthony said. You just drafted it up. You get Arch, right? Everybody's talking about Arch. I just want to throw his name out there, Arch, because I know Adriana loves me to throw Arch out.
By the way, I threw a video up on TikTok yesterday because all of my comments are tank for Arch, forget Shedeur, we're getting Arch next year, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, so I made a video being like, are Colts and Broncos fans as fucking insane as Giants fans are that they think that Arch Manning in 2026 is going to save the franchise? And I was like, I know Broncos fans have Bo Nix. I'm just asking, okay? And they're all like, nah, we got Bo Nix, we're good. And Colts fans were like, didn't even cross my mind. I'm like, you guys have Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones as your quarterback.
Daniel Jones.
You didn't even think about it?
He's not even going to come out in 2026, which is the funniest part about all of it.
He's not. He's going to finish college. He's another one that he don't need money either. He don't need money either. Corp, thank you so much. Riddle me this, so riddle me that. Many talk about what the Giants and Titans are going to do in their mock. Reality is the draft begins and the Browns are on the clock. Agreed.
That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like, yeah.
No question. But I think it's going to go Cam Ward, Abdul Carter. And then I don't know what we're doing. But a Colorado Buffalo will be a New York Giant at 3. I don't know which one. I lean Hunter, but.
So you're going against what Anthony thinks, because Anthony said they brought the owner. That hints towards Colorado. Pick at number 2 with the Browns.
Well, again, to your point, if they don't sign somebody, they have to take a quarterback. They have to, because you talk about how the Giants, they'll all lose their jobs. You don't think Cleveland be like, what the hell? You got a quarterback sitting right there and you pass, and we went in with Kenny Pickett. At least the Giants are going in with Russell Wilson. I mean, I'd rather have Russell Wilson than Kenny Pickett any day of the week. So
who do you think
trade them Tommy DeVito?
Who do you think of the 2 picks? Because it feels like you guys think they're taking Hunter. Of the 2 non-quarterback picks that they could take, who do you think would excite the fan base more? Abdul
Hunter.
Carter or
Hunter.
Travis Hunter?
Hunter, because he can do two
Hunter.
things.
Yep.
For me, it would be
And
Carter.
because up until now, the Giants haven't really made any exciting moves on offense. And Hunter would be the first one that would do that
point.
because of the moves they made on defense. I think for the most part, fans feel like the defense is in decent shape. It's better than it was last year, whatever. It's the offense that was the problem child last year is still the problem
For
child.
6 years.
It's not that much better. Right.
I think fans would get excited about the prospect of Hunter and Neighbors. And I don't know how you couldn't.
Mhm.
As Anthony said, idiot proof. Idiot proof.
In theory.
Call me crazy. I'm a Giants fan. I love the pass rush. And I think Abdul Carter has the possibility of being a Micah Parsons level type player off the edge. I'd be more excited about him than Travis Hunter. I understand. And I agree with you. I think the majority of fans want the offense. They want the playmaker, even though I think he's going to play more defense than offense. I've said that all along, but he definitely will be involved in the offense. He's exciting. He sells jerseys. I would be more excited about Abdul Carter, man. I look at that Eagles defensive line last year, and I salivate at that. Getting a guy like Abdul Carter to pair with Burns, Dexter Lawrence in the middle, that would excite me more than Travis Hunter.
I get it, but the Eagles also have some guys they can throw to, and they have this running back. I forgot his name, but and they also have a great offensive line, so they're okay on the other side of the ball too. To tell you honest, I think the defense is in better shape than the offense. I'm not saying the defense is stout or anything, but I think with Burns and a healthy Thibodeau and a Bobby Okereke and adding the additions we did in the secondary and obviously Dex, I think if our offense plays to a point where we're not going 3 and out, we're not holding the ball 26 minutes a game, and we're putting up more than 16 points, it takes pressure off the defense. They're not on the field as long. The defense will be even better. So I think it's addition by subtraction with the defense. I think if you get a better offense, your defense is going to be better automatically. So as great as Abdul Carter is, I think if you had a guy like Travis Hunter and you just have more.
He's the more exciting player. I get it. He's the more exciting player.
I'll be happy with either one. Trust me.
And I see this is an argument. I see a truth bearer bring it up, and a lot of people say this. They're worried about the injury concerns with Abdul Carter. He wrote that he has injury concerns. But my standpoint is this, and maybe I'm crazy. Maybe you guys disagree with me. I am more when we're talking about potential injuries, I'm more concerned with Travis Hunter when it comes to that than Abdul Carter. If Travis Hunter is going to play on both sides of the ball, I think he screams more of an injury risk than Abdul Carter does. For everybody that brings up that argument about Abdul Carter, and if they're going to institute Travis Hunter in a similar capacity to the way they did in college, there's a reason nobody's done that in the NFL. That screams injury risk. So whenever anybody always uses that argument against Abdul Carter, I say I'm more afraid that Travis Hunter could be injury plagued than Abdul Carter can.
Well, I think that Carter's got some issue with his foot, and
I know that.
So I think that's why Hunter's going in clean bill of health, and Abdul Carter's got whatever this is.
Saquon Barkley went with a clean bill of health too. I mean,
I know you, Chris. You gotta. I said that all the damn time. It doesn't matter. That's why I say they should play preseason games, but because you could get hurt the first snap of the regular season. So you never know. They need to play more snaps and get more cohesive, especially a team like the freaking Giants. They need all the snaps they can get in preseason. They don't play it, so John, thank you. Says the Browns and Giants don't pick a quarterback in round 1. They'll both be at the top round 2, wanting to trade back in round. That's a fact. I know they're the same players, but they're both going to be in a similar situation, and they'll be bidding against each other. I completely agree with that. If Cleveland doesn't sign another quarterback, I cannot see them passing Shedeur Sanders. I can't see it. I can't see it because unless
they make a Cousins trade after the draft?
That's what I'm saying. Well, I guess they would have no choice.
Yeah,
at that point, but then the asking price is going to go way up, don't you think? Oh, you're Kenny Pickett. Well, now the price just went up. Price of poker is going up, people. The best intern in the business, Chris Aberdog's intern. He doesn't just work for free; he pays us. We appreciate you. He says,
that's why we don't pay him because of that prediction he just made. But I love him anyway.
Well, it is Friday. Maybe he got into the liquor cabin. He said, but he's got to take. We finish 11-6, 4-2 in the division, sweeping Dallas. I love it. I wish that was right. Listen, I had the hot take we were going to finish ahead of Dallas in the standings, and I said make sure you bookmark that one so you can come back and tell me how bad of a take it was. It's always my favorite.
That's such a hot take. Remember when you were in science class with the Bunsen burner with the blue flame? That's how hot that take is. But I hope you're right, man. I really do. I hope you're right. And thank you for being here. Thank you for all the support you always show.
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
11-6 would be great. I would be very happy with that. It'd be amazing. But hey, listen, the odds are long, as we saw earlier. Okay. But as Anthony mentions, every year is different. You really don't know what you're facing. You have no clue. That's why they play the games. Chris Berman, said that all. That's why they play the games. Watson, thank you. He says, I heard rumors trade for Anthony Richardson. What do y'all think? I can't see that. I don't think
AR is going anywhere. I think he's at least got the full rest of this year. Maybe next offseason he could hit the trade block. But for now, I think it's going to be the competition between him and Daniel Jones. I think they're going to give him a fair shot at it, and I don't see them trading him midseason. I think it'll just become the same conversation that we had about Bryce Young last year, and he didn't get traded. So I don't see why Anthony Richardson would get traded between now and the start of the season.
I agree. Signing Daniel Jones doesn't – it's a competition, but they invested too much in Anthony Richardson to trade him. Now, they wouldn't get anything for him. He's been horrible.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
And he's still on rookie contract. I can't see them doing that.
Yeah.
JC, Chris, of course we're calling games this year. We're gluttons for punishment.
The Pope Catholic is Morgan Freeman your profile picture. Of course, we're going to be calling games, my man. Of course, we're going to be calling games.
I mean, if we could get through last year, yeah.
What's the quote by Morgan Freeman there? It's too small, I can't see it. But another great actor.
Most people do not listen with the intent to understand; they listen with the intent to reply.
I like that.
Some good movie pictures today. Appreciate all you guys.
For sure.
Yeah, my eyes are really good up close. Distance, not so much. So I have a 70-inch TV down here so I can see what the hell I'm looking at. Nino, then he says, if we're going on Dave's, Hunter is the pick. Too crispy.
It's daps. We were talking about this on the Fireside Giants live stream today, because if you saw Jackson Dart dap up Shea Tierney last week, that thing echoed through the whole pro day facility. It was immaculate. And Alex pointed that out on Twitter. And so all of our Fireside Giants viewers, we've got this ongoing joke. The guy who makes the best dap with Brian Daboll, that's who we're going to pick at number 3 overall.
Gotcha.
Awesome. Brian Daboll is really good at that.
He's got great daps. But Shedeur did dap him up real well at the combine. I saw that. So who knows? Maybe Chris is on something.
Jerry Jones measures players by other means. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. If you don't, look it up.
Oh, yeah. He was talking
measure guys by gaps. Okay. Okay. John, thank you. Giants top 30 visits. Marcus Mbo, Shedeur Sanders, Abdul Carter, Joshua Farmer, Cam Ward, Shamar Stewart, and Siobhan Rivell. So far. Okay.
Well, Travis Hunter will be on that list for sure. Obviously, Dart, you figure there's going to be a lot more names on that list. Not on that list yet.
Yeah. I like Marcus Mbo, though. That's an interesting one because I could see him being a pick at the top of round 2. He's a real mauler in the running game as an offensive lineman. I like him.
I read that they brought in the Ohio State running back, too, I think, for a top 30 visits.
Henriksen?
Yeah, I think they brought in – I think they brought in Hendrickson, yeah.
Is that his name?
I think one of the – I know they got 2 good running backs, if I'm not mistaken, but they brought in one of them. Yeah.
Yeah, one of them went for 99 yards when we were calling that game.
You had to go at 8, right? I don't want to keep you. You said you had to go at 8.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So Audrey's going to dip. She's got somewhere to be. We're almost done anyway. So Audrey, enjoy the show. We'll see you Wednesday.
Thank you. Enjoy your weekend, guys.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
All righty. Sam, thank you. He says, what was Sanders' number without Hunter in Colorado? What if Sanders' numbers been without Hunter in Colorado? Did Hunter make Sanders better or vice versa? That's a really good question.
I hate this argument. Because you could have said the same thing about Joe Burrow as a prospect coming out. You could have said the same thing about Jaden Daniels, right? He had arguably the 2 of the top 4 receivers in last year's class he had on his team with Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas. But no, that you didn't. People didn't use that same argument about other quarterbacks, and when they did, a guy like Jaden Daniels proved them wrong. I'm not saying,
a guy like Dwayne Haskins proved him right.
That's true. That's true.
That's why it is.
That was good. That was a good counter.
That's true. That's a good counter.
that's why it's tough though, because
Yeah.
Ohio State quarterbacks, for the most part, until C.J. Stroud, always failed in the NFL because they had great wide receivers.
They also
LSU quarterbacks too. I mean, Joe Burrow was the first LSU quarterback that's hit. I mean, obviously Jaden Daniels now, but before Joe Burrow, I remember people going into that draft saying, "Oh, LSU quarterback, you can't take him first overall." People were literally saying that about Joe Burrow of all people. So I don't know. It is tough to decipher, and I think that they just made each other. Like I think they were both great with one another, and I also think that there's a lot to put into a quarterback that knows how to force feed their top receiver. Like we just watched for the last 6 years. I mean, we always were complaining like we're not getting the ball to our playmakers consistently enough. They're open, but Jones isn't hitting them. He's not throwing into coverage when his top playmakers there. Like we've said that before. We know Shedeur, 4th and 10, he's throwing it up to Travis Hunter. We saw that one highlight that he had where Hunter caught it between two people on a 4th and 10. Sure, it was a bad throw, but I see it. It's in double coverage. It's a good throw because it went to Travis Hunter, and he gave his best playmaker a chance to make a play. So I think you can look at it from that perspective and say they make each other and they know how to maximize each other.
Again, I wish I knew who said the quote because it was the best. Fuck it, leak down there somewhere. That quote's gonna stick with me. Yeah. I love it. Just pretty much. It was about Jameis Winston, but fuck it, I'm just throwing it. He'll catch it. Hey, give your players an opportunity to make a play on the ball. It's better than sitting back there and taking a sack on 4th down and 10. You're not getting anything out of that. Maybe you have no chance if you take a sack. So one thing about Shedeur Sanders is very high IQ guy. And that can certainly resonate in the NFL. The smart quarterbacks, the cerebral quarterbacks, it's extremely important and an aspect that I think is overlooked because just outside of raw talent, if they just have raw talent, but you can't read a defense. I always use Colin Kaepernick because I think Colin Kaepernick had one of the most ridiculous skill sets ever. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's big. He's fast. Couldn't read a defense and had no accuracy. And he was out of league. I mean, I understand all
that
the political
guy, man.
But he was on his way out before any of that happened.
You want to talk about a quarterback, though, like you said, from a physical skill standpoint that was built in a lab. It was Colin Kaepernick. But the problem with him was he was like a pitcher. He was like Noah Syndergaard. When Noah Syndergaard came up with the Mets,
no change up.
He could throw that 101 mile an hour fastball, but he didn't have the secondary pitches. It was the same thing with Kaepernick. He had more zip than anybody on that throw, but he didn't have the touch. He didn't have the accuracy. But yeah, Colin Kaepernick was special in terms of his physical tools. Yeah.
Yep. Bob, thank you, brother. Always good to see you. I'm with you, Bad Dog. I can't see Cleveland going into 2025 with Pickett for their starter. They have to go quarterback. I don't see how you could ever just I don't care how good Myles Garrett and Abdul Carter would be together, and it'd be amazing to see what they could do together. But how are you scoring? How are you scoring if you're Cleveland?
I agree. There's no way they're going into the year with just Kenny Pickett.
Yeah, they can't.
It could be a second-round quarterback. It's possible. Or it could be a guy like a Kirk Cousins,
But there's no guarantee if you wait that long. Because, Chris, you always say if you love a quarterback, you got to get him. I mean, there's no guarantee that. Because if they sit back and wait and they fail because Jackson Dart goes 20, I mean, 6 quarterbacks were in the top 12 last year. So if Jackson Dart goes to the Saints at 9, crazier shit's happened. And he's not there. And then Milroe goes back in the first round. I can't see that happen. But who knows? What if somebody decides, let's take a shot at Jalen Milroe here? Yeah. And then Cleveland's sitting there going, Kyle McCord? I don't know. It'd be crazy to go in with just Kenny Pickett. Do they even have a backup?
I don't know.
Is he the only quarterback on the roster? Anthony, do you know is he the only quarterback on the roster?
I don't remember who else they have. I know they have somebody. Well, Dorian Thompson-Robinson's still there, isn't he?
Okay.
So you got him. He's terrible, though. I mean, he's tough to watch. Really tough to watch. He's really bad.
Yep.
Like worse than Daniel Jones, maybe, and that's saying something.
That's pretty bad. Well, at least they didn't get paid $40 million a year. Jaden, and they're not going to wait 6 years to realize you can't play. Jaden, thank you so much. Joe Shane Masterclass, trade up for Cam Ward at 1 with his legacy on the line or Travis Hunter at 3. I would love Cam Ward. I've been a Cam Ward guy. Just go back to Twitter before the college year even started. Watch me just talk about. I even put that out there in April. I said I'll play along with the 2025 draft. The Giants take Cam Ward, Miami.
Oh, DTR, by the way, Anthony
I was
is
about to say, yeah, I was actually wrong on that. He was part of that trade, so he's on the Eagles. So they literally have Kenny Pickett. I'm looking at their roster right now. They have Kenny Pickett and Deshaun Watson. Those are the only two quarterbacks they
They
have.
have
Deshaun
one
Watson's
quarterback.
not playing, so they just have Kenny Pickett. That's crazy.
and A2, who is a great subscriber of mine and Bad Dogs. He wrote, "Do you guys answer any questions that aren't super chats?" And he says, "I guess not capitalism, baby." We try to answer questions. It's an hour show. And
Right,
A2,
we're over.
if somebody gives $2, Bad Dog's not going to be like, "Oh, screw you. We're going to pass on you." So we only have so much time to answer the questions. It's not like we try to ignore people. We appreciate everybody that's here.
Of course. Yeah. And we're over. We're over now. And
Yeah.
I'm just, trying to get through them. I'm definitely not ignoring anybody, but it is because it is just an hour show. But that's why we say, who said that, guys? I don't have that chat up.
What happened? Oh, A2.
A2's
He's a great subscriber, man. I'm just kidding with him. But
Okay, so right, but that's why we say, guys, on Wednesday nights, I always say this: Friday night is for questions. So if you leave a question on Wednesday's show in the comment section, we will answer that first. So please, if you have questions and you want them answered, this is usually the night that we do that. There was no questions in that last live stream. I looked, there was no questions. If you have a question, ask it there on Wednesdays.
We are begging you guys. We
will get to that first. Absolutely.
We are trying to do a weekly mailbag segment on this channel, and we don't get questions. Now, maybe we're not doing a good enough job of saying it and vocalizing it. At the end of the video, if you guys have a question that you guys want us to answer in the next episode, Wednesday, shout it out, man. And we're gonna spend the first half hour of that show making those the topics of the mailbag. So we would love for you guys to ask questions. Yeah, love it.
Yep. Nick Bobbis, thank you so much. The fact that DJ gets about the same pay as both of our quarterbacks tells me Jones is the real superstar here.
The fact that DJ gets
he's getting $14 million, and that's about what we're paying our quarterbacks.
That's true.
Daniel Jones's agent belongs in the Hall of Fame for what he's
done. Kirk Cousins. They must know each other. Do they have the same agent? Kirk Cousins' agent's a genius.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins has worked the system better than anybody. Amazing. Yeah.
John, thank you again. He says, correct me if I'm wrong, but Dave has always had mobile quarterbacks. Shedeur Sanders isn't. Shedeur Sanders isn't. Are your grades far off between Dart and Sanders? I see Hunter at 3, then Dart after. I think Sanders is better than Dart, but yeah, Sanders is not he's elusive. I think you don't need to be a guy like Jane Daniels that can rush for 100 yards, like Lamar Jackson. I understand mobile quarterbacks are big. It's a weapon nowadays. As long as you're elusive in the pocket and can get away from the rush, Tom Brady certainly couldn't run. I can beat Tom Brady in a race right now. I almost guarantee him. We're the same age, so I really feel like I could beat him.
You probably could.
I probably could. And it's not like he don't work out. He works out like a madman. I still feel like I could beat him. He had no athleticism as far as that goes, but he barely ever took a sack. Yeah, a good line, but he was very good at getting away from the rush, stepping up, moving aside, doing a little shoulder, whatever it was. He didn't have to run out of the pocket. Sanders is very good at being elusive. So while he might not go for a 40-yard touchdown run, as long as he can buy time in the pocket, and you got guys like Malik Neighbors that can make plays downfield,
and
if the quarterback can spin plays, he's going to be effective.
And as Anthony and I have said, I think Shedeur Sanders' athleticism is very underrated by a lot of people. Like when you hear people talk, you would think they think he's like Tom Brady athletically, like he has 2 left feet when he's out there in terms of his athleticism, in terms of his ability to his escapability and his ability to take off and run. He has more than enough athletic ability. He's not a running back. He's not Lamar Jackson, but
he's not Jay Daniels.
He has more than enough athleticism to be able to move and make plays with his legs, in my opinion.
You know who else they said that about? Was Michael Penix. Oh, he can't run. Dude comes out and runs like a 4.4 or what, 4.39, whatever the hell it was. And just because they don't run doesn't mean they can't.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll say this. I think the more important thing for Brian Daboll's offense is playing on time. I think he's way more West Coast than people give him credit for. He really relies on a quick passing game, and that's why I think Shedeur Sanders is such a good fit for his offense. And also throw out there, I think a lot of people forget that Brian Daboll was an offensive coordinator for several teams before he was a coordinator for the Bills. He was with the Dolphins in 2011 when Matt Moore was the quarterback. He wasn't mobile. He was with the Chiefs in 2012 when Matt Castle was the quarterback. He wasn't mobile. And he was with the Browns in 2009 and 10 when Brady Quinn was the quarterback and he wasn't mobile. So it's not like he doesn't have experience coaching pocket passing quarterbacks. Obviously, those were bad teams that he was coaching, but still.
And another thing I want to bring up about Daboll, and I don't remember when he said this. It was maybe like a month ago when it was one of the beat reporters asked him, what is the most important trait for a quarterback? And I was actually surprised with the answer because you're talking about a guy that came from Josh Allen. He's also coached Tua Tagovailoa, though. So he said the most important attribute in a quarterback was accuracy. That to me screams Shedeur Sanders. There's not a more accurate quarterback in this draft. I think, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't he have like the highest completion percentage like ever in a single, like something I saw some
4.9 or something last year, right?
Yeah, he set the career record at the NCAA level in Division I for highest completion percentage.
Yeah, accuracy is much more important than arm strength. You could say the same thing about pitching, right? I mean, Greg Maddux wasn't blowing guys away with a 99 upstairs, but man, oh man, he can mix speeds and he can freaking, whatever. I can't think of a good analogy for that, but his accuracy is pinpoint. He can put the ball wherever the hell he wanted to.
So, of course, Bad Dog, you remember because you're a baseball savant like me, even probably more so. Greg Maddux used to get away, though. They used to give him an extra foot.
Of course, but that when you're accurate, same thing like a guy like Wade Boggs or Tony Gwynn. If you took really close pitches and you had a good eye, you usually got the benefit of the call.
That's true.
I mean, you can't really get the benefit of the call in the NFL. You do. You do a good quarterback and like Pat Mahomes, and you look at him wrong and they throw a flag. I mean, that's a different story.
And I'll make this one last point. I've made this point against Daniel Jones before, but I'll turn it in favor of Shedeur Sanders. I thought Daniel Jones' biggest problem was his accuracy, and that's what held the offense back. Like I've said before, some of these passes were a second late or behind a Wan'Dale Robinson, for example. So it's a 2-yard gain rather than a 6-yard gain if he gets hit in stride. So you're talking about 3rd and 8 rather than 3rd and 4. So like that's a big difference. And that's why I trust Shedeur if he is drafted to the Giants, because he's usually on time and he's supremely accurate. So I think there's more run after the catch opportunities and ultimately a smoother offense. So I don't know. I see the flaws with Shedeur for sure, but the accuracy is a major selling point.
And I can tell you this, Anthony, a big reason I think they drafted Wan'Dale Robinson was for the run after the catch. And we've seen it when he caught it in stride. He was a yak monster. Yeah. If you do bring in a guy like Shedeur Sanders, that can lead him, especially with a guy like Malik Neighbors now commanding a ton of attention on the outside. It's going to benefit all parties. You get rid of the ball quicker, it's going to make the offensive line better. You get the ball out of your hands, you're going to get extra yak yards. And yeah, there's a big difference between 3rd and 8 and 3rd and 4. So again, I with the moves they made, I don't think they're strapped to Shedeur Sanders. And I would love Travis Hunter, but don't get me wrong. Shedeur Sanders is a Giant on draft night. I'm going to be happy about it. Yeah. I'm not going to sit there and go, oh, I didn't want that guy. I am perfectly fine with Shedeur Sanders being a Giant without question. I think they can mess this one up. They're getting 1 of 3 players, and I'm happy with any of those guys.
Yeah, I can't imagine it's any because I think it's pretty obvious now Ward's not going to be there. And yeah, I agree. It's one of those 3. You're ended up with Carter or the 2 Colorado guys. That's it. That's what we're just getting. One of those 3 will be a Giant.
Chris L, thank you, says, I feel like Jackson Dart is being underhated. I think he meant the type. I don't think he meant underrated. Underhated. What is that?
I think he means
that means that he's got too much love and they should hate him.
He's overrated and underhated. I like that.
Gotcha. Okay. He's underrated. I'm not the biggest Jackson Dart guy, but
neither am I. Now, I'd be fine if they took him in the 2nd round, but I see some people like the last super chat, and everybody's entitled to their opinion, and a lot of people agree with this. More and more people seem to think that Shedeur and Jackson Dart are very close. I'm not one of those people. I think there's a big gap. So yeah, that's just my opinion, though. Everybody's got their own opinions. I am not the biggest Jackson Dart guy.
No. Yeah, I'm with you on that, Chris. I think there's a gap. And I have these debates all the time on Fireside Giants because Alex is in the camp where he thinks Dart and Sanders are similar, and I don't see it that way. But I don't think he's underhated. I don't think he's overrated. I like Dart a lot, but I I guess he is a little bit overrated. Some fans talk about him like he's going to be the steal of the draft. I don't know about that. There is a lot of risk involved with a quarterback who basically played 7v7 football for the last 2 years at the collegiate level. So he's got a lot of work to do. I don't think he's a ready-made product. No way would I want to see him starting any games for the Giants in 2025.
You think that's because he went to Ole Miss and our good buddy Eli went to Ole Miss and there's that connection? Like this, I understand the draw to Eli, everything to Eli. I get it, especially for the younger generation that saw Eli win Super Bowls. I get it, but just because he goes to Ole Miss doesn't mean he's a good quarterback. I don't know what else to say. With that said, we're going to get out of here. Again, we always appreciate everybody that tunes in and Sports Channel. Thank you for getting us. We're probably over 4,100 subscribers now. So if you haven't done so, again, hit the thumbs up for us, subscribe, share it out, because as we get towards the draft, it's going to be a lot more fun. And when we get into the regular season, we're going to have a ton to talk about. And these streams are going to be big. We know it. And we really appreciate it because, as I mentioned at the top of the show, the Giants have been a train wreck, to put it nicely, for years. Maybe this is the year they finally start to show some improvement. We have something to be optimistic about going forward. So, go ahead, Chris.
Speaking of train wrecks, I want to answer Nick M's question real quick before we leave. Is it possible that the Giants screw up at the pick at 3? Have you watched the Giants for the last 5, 6, 7 years? Every year we convince ourselves as fans there's no way they could screw the pick up. We all said the Evan Neal pick was a slam dunk. We all love the Kayvon, and Kayvon could still be good. I'm not trying to rag on him. But of course they could screw the pick up. We all hope they don't. And I'm excited for whoever they pick.
Maybe the players was the pickup, though.
What is that?
Consensus. I mean, I don't think anybody looked at it and goes, God, Evan Neal, what are you doing?
On draft night, you're not going to feel like they screwed up the pick. Well, unless we draft Daniel Jones, like in
right.
19.
So I could take Dart or Ashton Genty, and I think a lot of Giants fans will say they screwed up. So I'm saying he's the best player of the draft class, so it's possible.
I think it wasn't a question. It was something about trading back with the Saints and getting Ashton Genty. I'm like, that one. Awful.
Eliminate that name from your vocabulary. I don't want, and Genty is a fabulous player. He's fantastic. One of the best running back prospects in a long time. He better not be sniffing MetLife Stadium after that draft. Let him go to the Raiders. Let him go to not the
Dallas, wherever. The Saints, wherever the hell he's going. Let him go. Yeah. With that said, we're going to go. So we appreciate you guys and girls tuning in. For Anthony and the entertainer, it's Bad Days Dizzle. Enjoy your weekend, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday night. And we out. Peace.